Hello, my friends. Welcome to our data focus channel. I'm Marcus Cortez, and I want to show you one of the visuals in Power BI that are not very often used, but it's very powerful in its own way. And that's the ribbon chart. Okay, so if you've seen that and you don't quite understand, come with me. I want to show you how to build that visual and what are the main strengths and maybe some weaknesses for this chart. So how can you use that to bring that added value to your dashboard for your clients? Okay, so if you're not subscribed to our channel, please do that right now. Leave your thumbs up in your comments below so we can always bring you great content here on YouTube. Okay, let's go. Okay, so ribbon chart, what? This is the culprit. Okay, so you might have seen this chart, or you may even have tried it out in Power BI. It's one of the default visuals. It's right here called ribbon chart, but it's not very often used. I myself have used very little times. But I recently used with one client and it caused that wow effect. He really liked it because it was perfectly for what he needed to see, right? So that's what I want to discuss with you. So when do you want to use this ribbon chart and when will that bring the most value to your dashboard? And that's mostly when you're comparing different categories across time and you're interested to see how their rankings change over time, okay, if that makes sense. In this example here, you're seeing on the screen, we have like total sales for the year 2017 for three main categories of products: furniture, office supplies, and technology. And we can easily track the total sales for each of these categories, but how their rankings change over time. So we can see kind of the path over time for each category because it's color coded. So for example, if we look at office supplies, okay, we start in January in number one, right? The top is number one, the bottom is last one from rankings perspective. So we started the year number one, still number one. Oh, then we lost the position to technology. We gained it back again in April, and then we dropped it in June and July. So what happened in June and July? Why are we at the bottom? And then we had a big recovery in August and September, maybe some promotions for that specific category, then a big drop again, and we ended the year in number two position. So can you see how easily it is for your eyes to track how that changed over time compared to the other categories? That's what the ribbon chart does, okay? So you have the totals for each period, in this case for each month, but it's very easy for you to track as well how that changed, how these rankings change. And if you have if you have the legend here, as I have here on the right, if you select one category, it will highlight that one category, and you can even more easily see how that tracks and how that change over time. Okay, so come with me. Let me show you how to build this visual. It's very simple. So I'm gonna open a new tab. You select the ribbon chart. In this example, I'm using fictitious data set called Superstore sample data. I've used that before here in a few videos. So for this one, we need the x-axis, the y-axis, and a legend, right? If we want to break that down by category. In this case, we're going to use date. I have a date hierarchy here. I'm going to use that for my x-axis. That's usually what you want to do for this chart. You want to track that over time, but of course, you can use a different metric for the x-axis. And I'm going to use, let's use quantity instead of sales this time for the y-axis, okay? So it shows us, naturally, it brings that hierarchy up to the highest level, which is year. I don't want years, so let's remove day, quarter. So let me bring that down to a monthly level. So let me remove year and even quarter and day, okay? And let me add a year filter. Oops. Let me add a year filter. So I'm sure I'm only looking at 1 year at a time. So basic filtering, let's look at 2017 together, okay? We'll close the filter out. So you can see if we only have one category, just the total, the summary, it doesn't make a lot of sense to use this chart. We can use a line chart instead of, or even a bar chart. But when we add a different breakdown, in this case, let's use region instead of category. Okay, you can use region and drop that down under legend, and that's when that magic happens, right? So it creates this ribbon broken down by different categories. In this case, it's broken down by region. Let me move that the legend to the right, so you can open, in this case, the format tab. Let's find legend. I'll open that up. Instead of top left, let's select center right. Okay, so it's very easy for me to see. I'll also add data labels, just like we had. So we can have the totals for each category for each period. I also like to add total labels at the top, but I'd like to make that bigger. It's very easy for the user to see that that's something different, right? That's the total bolded at the top. And now let me close this format tab for a second. So see what happens. It's very easy to build, right? There are a few more formatting options and whatnot, but it's very, very easy for you to build. And this is basically a bar chart. And they added the ribbons in between periods, right? So from October, November, we have these ribbons connecting the two bars of the same color. But we do have the option, if we go to the formatting options, to turn that off, right? And it just becomes a basic bar chart, right? Like we are used to. But if we add the ribbon, that's the main difference for this chart. We can even use those ribbons for other bar charts. For example, we can do that for the 100% stacked chart. You see, you do have the ribbon option here. You can turn on or off. Okay, so it's basically a bar chart, but with the little ribbons that bring in, let me Control Z this thing, that brings that extra touch. And that's the main situation where we're going to use this when you're comparing different categories, or in this case, different regions, whatnot, across time, right? And you're interested to see how their rankings change over time. So these ribbons and the color coding make it very, very easy for you to kind of spot that change over time across these categories, right? You're not only interested in that one category, but how that one compares in ranking to the other categories. So that's very, very neat, very easy. And again, if you select the legend, you can select just one or other categories, and you can easily track how that goes up and down. Okay, and how, when should you not use this chart, right? I'd say the main situation where you shouldn't use this chart when you're trying to compare different categories is when you have many, many categories, or you want to show many data points. That's not a good use as well. Let me show you an example. So in this case, we have region in here. So let's pull subcategory. Have subcategories instead of region. Let's break that down. And you see what happens? Like, we have so many subcategories that this visual suddenly becomes so cluttered with so much information, so many colors. It's very hard to read, right? You all agree with me. It's very, very hard to read, right? Hard to follow. So it doesn't bring any value instead of confusion, okay? So that's one of the cases where you shouldn't use it. It's the same with the x-axis. If you have like it by day, by hour, whatever. So if you get too granular, it's very, very hard for the user to track that path down. That's the most important thing about this visual. So I wouldn't use it in that case where you have so many categories. For example, if you have the subcategories, but you have the visual for, let's add category to the filter, for example, and you're only looking at furniture, and you want to look at the subcategories inside furniture, then that's fine, right? Because we only have 4 subcategories in that space. So you see how easy it is to track this down, but not the one before. That's one of the weaknesses of this chart. That's when you shouldn't use this chart, when you have many, many categories, okay? So be conscious of that. But if you only have like a bunch of categories, 4, 5, maybe 6, you can see how neat it is to track that over time. Again, I use this in real life for a project I was working for. It brought that wow effect to the client because the person really, really liked it, how easy it is to track the ups and downs. And the person was very interested to see how one category compared to the other over time. So this chart is perfect for that situation. Okay, so use it mindfully, right? Be careful not to clutter it or just add a visual because it's fancy. You're really looking forward to those opportunities to bring value, right? What value are you adding by using this visual instead of a blank bar chart, right? A basic bar chart. If the basic bar chart does the job, then do it. Don't overcomplicate things. Make data visualization more simple, more easy to read from your user perspective. Okay, so I hope you like it. I liked it. It's very, very straightforward, but I like this visual because it's not very often used. It's under the default visualizations, but it has its value. Okay, so I hope you liked it. If so, don't forget to leave your thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and I'll see you in the next video.